Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer video. And today, we're going to be talking about the best Pioneer reprints that were featured in Innistrad Remastered. So for those who are unaware, Innistrad Remastered, a complete reprint set, basically featuring what are the best cards in Innistrad in terms of all the different blocks and sets, as well as other like flavor cards, just overall across the plane of Innistrad. And we're going to be talking about the best reprints. So a couple of things we have to go over before we actually hop into the list here. So it's not just necessarily like, oh, hey, this card that sees play in Pioneer went down X amount, so it's the best automatically. It's not just going to be talking about overall dollars you might save in reprints or anything like that. It's really just like my list of the cards that see play that I'm glad were reprinted, whether or not it was, spoiler, a different like style of art or something like that, or a border, but also financially speaking, like cards that went down. So it's just kind of going to be a mix of a little bit of everything. But two things before we hop into the actual list here. The first thing, we are currently on our road to 1,000 subscribers. As of the recording of this video, we're at 900 subscribers. There's going to be a huge giveaway once we hit 1,000 subscribers. And if you want to be a part of that, make sure to subscribe so that way you can be entered into the giveaway once it does happen. And then if you want to, be following the channel, for that way when we actually do the update, you can be following the channel for updates. So go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss it. And before we hop into the list here, we have to talk about one dishonorable mention, which I've never actually done one of these before on any of my lists, detailing reprints or cards from sets or anything like that. Just, this is a card that I really feel like should have been reprinted. I do understand why it was not, but let's go ahead and talk about it. And that card is Cavern of Souls. So Cavern of Souls originated in Avacyn Restored, which obviously is on Innistrad. Listen, I understand that the card was just put into Standard with, Lost Caverns of Ixalan. I understand that it's had a few somewhat recent reprints and such like that. I understand, but my main thing is with this is, is this not one of the best cards in Innistrad we've ever seen? Obviously it is, because it sees play in a number of different decks, even not even just Pioneer. It sees play in like every format, because obviously in like Legacy and Vintage, you've got like your Merfolk and your Goblins. Commander players love this card. Obviously it sees play in Standard, in Pioneer, in Modern. So I get why they didn't put it in the set, but I think it was a huge fail that they didn't. It's a pricey card. Just put it in the set. Who cares if it was just put in Ixalan? People are going to be happy to open Cavern of Souls. I don't know. I'm not happy that this wasn't in the set overall. Not that Innistrad Remastered is a set that I'm already like super duper crazy about, because again, there's no like new cards or anything like that. But overall, this should have definitely been in the set, and I'm a little mad that it was not. So Cavern of Souls is my dishonorable mention for cards not being in Innistrad Remastered. But let's go and hop into the actual list here. Okay, so number 10, this is going to be a little bit of a weird one in terms of it was already kind of a cheap card, but it's Hopeful Initiate. The reason why I'm happy about this reprint is Hopeful Initiate has only been printed in one set, and that is Innistrad Crimson. Yeah, it was Crimson Vow was the set it was in, and it technically was in the double feature, but I really don't count that. The main thing is Hopeful Initiate is generally a 4 of in Humans, just because the card is really, really good. And obviously, Humans is a little bit on the downswing right now, just based on how the metagame is as a whole. But as soon as Humans starts getting popular again, this card's going to go back to being like a $4 or $5 card. So I'm very happy to see its reprint here, so that way when the card does get more popular, again, it's going to be a little bit cheaper for people to pick up. So overall, happy with Hopeful Initiate at number 10. The one thing I forgot to mention too is on the left side, new to this style of video, the TCG price. This is essentially the TCG mid of the cheapest version of the card you can pick up. So for those who are wondering what those cards are. So, okay. So number 9, I have Liliana of the Veil. So it's not even that this is a crazy strong reprint, but because from my understanding, from my research that I did with this set, this card you can only open in collector boosters, so it's not going to be the most readily available card in the set, but this is the first time that we've really seen an old border planeswalker. We did see those one in the Secret Lair, I want to say about 2 years ago, but it didn't have like the standard templating to it at all. It was kind of like a gimmick, this is how they would have worded it in alpha kind of thing. So this is the first time like seeing a more, I guess, quote, serious old bordered planeswalker, which is pretty cool. You can obviously pick up regular copies for $13.50. The retro frame as of right now is currently going for $32. I think it's going to help the price a little bit just because there's going to be a lot of people that have Liliana the Veils that are going to want to pick these ones up, so it'll kind of result in the rest of them getting a little bit cheaper. But overall, I'm excited to see Liliana the Veil in an old border reprint and with the original art. I like all the art for Liliana the Veil for the most part, but obviously the original is very, very iconic. So Liliana the Veil is number 9 on the list. Alrighty, number 8, I have Hullbreaker Horror, a very, very popular card in a number of different formats. I would say Pioneer, it's maybe the least amount of popular, and that's why it's kind of lower on the list, but there's a few decks that do like to play this card. Obviously, Dimir Control, it's frequently, like, sometimes a 1-of in the main, but it's usually in the sideboard. I've seen a lot of Is It Creativity decks also like to play this card. Hullbreaker Horror, if you do not answer this card, you're going to lose to it, and that's why it's number 8 on the list. It's good to see that this card's going to go down in price a little bit, and the crazy thing is, too, is it's seen a lot of reprints so far. It's just because it's a really, really popular card. People love to play it and hate to play against it. So, Hullbreaker Horror, number 8 on the list. Number 7, I have Justella the Broken Blade, which I think a few people are going to be confused by this. So it really only sees play in one deck, and that's like the Big Angels deck. So instead of going, Devotion, Collected Company style, you're really just going into the bigger angels. So you're playing like Justella, and you're playing Baneslayer Angel and Baneslayer Angel-esque angels. You go a little bit bigger. I've seen some people play it with Storm the Festival or See the Unwritten. But the biggest thing with Justella is this card is pricey, and that's why people really don't like to play this in their list, especially in paper. It's a little bit different, obviously, on Arena, but in paper, this card is pricey just because Commander players really, really love to play this card. So I'm happy to see that this card is going to get cheaper. I know the $20 price tag, it should be going a little bit lower for now because it has seen a decent amount of reprints. The card is just really, really popular, so I'm definitely happy to see it reprinted, but it's number 7 on the list because it's definitely not the most popular card that sees play in Pioneer. So, okay, number 6, I have Emerol The Promised End. I'm really happy that this card got reprinted because it is extremely pricey. $45 is one of the most expensive cards in the Pioneer format as a whole. It really only sees play in like 2 different decks. It's really just the Gruul Ramp deck as well as Golgari Delirium mid-range decks. Those are the only decks that are really looking to play Emrakul, but I think part of why Emrakul doesn't see even more play in the format is because of its price tag. People like, the FNM Warriors and such and kitchen table people really don't want to build decks with Emrakul because of how pricey it is to actually pick this card up. So I think more people are going to want to play it as soon as the card gets a little bit cheaper, and I think that this reprint is definitely going to help. So Emerol The Promised End is number 6 on my list. All right, we're in top 5 territory here. Number 5, I have Metallic Mimic, which I already know what you're thinking. Like, hey, Emerol, that was a really great reprint. This card's only, a few bucks. Why is it on here? It's because the card is super popular. I mean, this is like the upteenth reprint for this card, and it's still holding a $3.50 price tag, which is kind of crazy. Also, new artwork. Shout out to that. I really do like the artwork in this set, especially with Metallic Mimic, but it sees playing a number of different decks in Pioneer. If you're playing a Kindred deck that needs an extra Lord, you're going to play Metallic Mimic. It also sees play in like the Construct Scales, mono green, sometimes green-white deck. That deck likes to play a card like Metallic Mimic a lot as well. But overall, I'm really happy to see this card reprinted. I love featuring this in budget decks here on the channel, so I'm happy that Metallic Mimic is being reprinted, so that way it stays cheap, so that way I can continue to feature it in my budget decks here on the channel. So Metallic Mimic is number 5 on the list. If you don't have these, definitely pick them up. The card is definitely very, very fun to play with. All right, number 4, I have Essence Flux, and I already know what you're thinking, like, what? I didn't even know this was in the set. Why are we talking about Essence Flux? It's because it's only been printed twice. It was in Jumpstart, and it was in Shadows over Innistrad. The card is a $4 uncommon, and it's going down as we talk right now because it's being reprinted as a common in Innistrad Remastered, which I am super happy about. There's not a lot of decks that really like to play this card. It's really just Merfolk decks. I've seen them do some things with Master of Waves and some other ETB Merfolks, as well as some different Blink decks that sometimes see play in the format. I've seen it with like Eldrazi Displacer, and you can do some kind of cool things with that. But the card is a $4 uncommon, and I would say probably with Essence Flux being a common in the set, it's probably going to go down to a buck, maybe even cheaper. But overall, I'm really, really happy to see Essence Flux gets reprinted. Again, a reprint that no one's really talking about because no one ever really looks at weird commons like this, especially from, random Innistrad sets. But overall, Essence Flux, number 4 on the list. Very, very happy that it is being reprinted, especially at common. Number 3, I have the Hook Massacre. Definitely, again, one of the most pricey cards in Pioneer that people like to play. It's these play in a number of different decks. Predominantly, Lotus Combo, they like to use it in their Wish board to be able to wrap the board a little bit, maybe gain some extra life. Black Devotion loves playing this card. It's a board wipe that adds devotion to the board, so it's absolutely perfect. Plus, you can just nick this thing out for like 1,000,000 and just like drain everything, and it's just really, really good. As well as Dimir Control. Dimir Control likes to play Hook Massacre as well. Really good at cleaning up small creatures. But the card is really, really pricey, and again, kind of similar to Emrakul. I think more people will play it once the card gets a little bit cheaper, so therefore it's just a really, really nice reprint to be able to have. And we all kind of knew Hook Massacre was going to get reprinted in this set, just because, again, it's one of the most popular cards from Innistrad, so it makes sense to go ahead and reprint it here. So, Hook Massacre is number 3 on the list. All right, number 2, and I think that this is going to be unsurprising for most people. It's just the slow lands. I put Stormcard Coast because I would say this is the most popular of the bunch in Pioneer. A number of different decks like to play the slow lands in Pioneer. I mean, aggro likes playing it, mid-range decks, control decks, combo decks. Everybody loves Stormcard Coast and the rest of the slow lands. They kind of vary in price. You can get like Rockfall Veils for about $1, but my research, the most expensive one is the Deathcap Glade, which is the Golgari one. But overall, I love that they keep reprinting these. They love throwing them in random commander decks and like pre-built decks and such, and I'm really happy that they keep doing that because people love these cards. It's easy for new players. They're powerful. Like overall, what's not to like about the slow lands? So that's why Stormcard Coast is number 2 on the list. In a way, it is kind of number 1 on the list, and this is going to be kind of vague, and I think it might be a little anticlimactic what I'm going to have at number 1. But number 1, it's not one specific card. It's just all of the old border reprints that are in the set. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, you already featured Liliana of the Veil on here. Liliana of the Veil for itself is just like, it's going to make Liliana of the Veil cheaper on average to be able to pick up. This is just all the cool $1.50 cards that are finally getting old border reprints. I mean, obviously there's a whole bunch in this set. There's just a handful I wanted to feature here. Mausoleum Wanderer, Spell Queller. There also technically was Geistlight Snare. We obviously have Lightning Axe. We have Thing in the Ice, Blood Tithe Harvester, Griff's Boon. There's even more. There's obviously like the bigger Thalia. There's, oh my gosh, I can't even think of all the random good commons and uncommons and even rares that were reprinted in old border for the first time in the set. But overall, I really, really love old bordered cards. I know that I'm definitely going to be scouring through Scryfall even more, picking up some of these cards just because I like the old bordered stuff. I think it's really cool. And it's also cool to see that we're getting really, really close to the point where there's top decks that are in all the different formats, like Pioneer, where you could almost have a fully old border deck just because they keep doing it. So obviously you have like your Blood Crypts, now you have your Blood Tithe Harvester. I'm sure they've probably done an old border Fatal Push at some point, and like you can just keep assembling your deck in old border if that's something you really, really like. I know Is It Phoenix is got to be really close because now you have Thing in the Ice, you have Lightning Axe, you have the Treasure Cruise from the Commander set. Man, I can't, I don't know if, I think I said Arclight Phoenix already. I know you don't have Ledger Shredder, but we're getting definitely very, very close to that for sure. So overall, I really, really love the old border reprints, and I'm very happy they decided to bring it back in Innistrad Remastered, and that's why it's collectively my number 1 reprint in this set. So that takes us to the end of the video here. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. You're not going to want to miss the giveaway once that happens, once we get to 1,000 subscribers. Huge shout out to our channel members, Ralph, Matt, Arcadius, Ray, Gary, Sarwan Loki, and Night Red 3. If you were interested in being a channel member here, it's only $1 a month, and you get access to the exclusive Commander Crane Discord, as well as other features here on the channel. So, I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one.